Newspapers are taken for granted in America in much the same manner that the sun's rising and setting is accepted. The publication of these messengers, however, is much more involved than the average layman realizes. It is a tremendous undertaking. The Courier fills a specialized need in the publishing field. It sheds light on the activities of Negroes, gives them hope, bolsters their faith in a better tomorrow, and strengthens the ambitions of America's youth. This is the Courier story, a romance in journalism. A family reads the Courier, America's best weekly, the communication lifeline of Negro America, serving an eager, wide-awake audience of more than 15 million people through the pages of its 16 interest-packed editions. The Courier gives concrete service to its many readers, for no story is too big or too small for the all-inclusive coverage of this publication. It was under Robert L. Vann's leadership that the Courier grew into a national voice and a champion of an underprivileged people. His efforts were followed by the guidance of the late Ira F. Lewis, who served the paper for more than 3 decades. Mrs. Robert L. Vann today carries high the banner of her famous husband. Serving as president and publisher, she too represents a living monument of the faith and enterprise of Negroes everywhere. In addition to serving as the executive head of this organization, she is active in national civic affairs, and to her co-workers and a multitude of associates is affectionately known as the Courier's First Lady. Mrs. Daisy Lampkin, Vice President and for 25 years a Field Secretary for the National Association of Colored People, keeps the promotional department alive with new ideas to sell additional papers and advertising space. She has outlined a public relations program, the only such program of which a Negro publication can boast. Earl V. Hord, General Manager, is also chief coordinator of all departments. He started as a linotype operator in 1933 and rose gradually through the advertising and business departments to his present post. And there is William G. Nunn, managing editor, with 31 years of experience in the newspaper field. He is a national figure who down through the years has been responsible for unearthing some of the greatest stories in Negro journalism. He discusses with news editor Robert Radcliffe stories and pictures to determine what shall be front page news for your Courier. P.L. Prattis, executive editor, supervises all features for the widely read editorial pages and points out to Coger authors of a story that might be eliminated. Jake Gaither, the circulation manager, and his assistant Arthur Morris have the responsibility of this paper's lifeline and must get the Courier to every city, town, and hamlet in these United States. They must reach 9 foreign countries, 5 territorial possessions, and the posts of servicemen across the world. All of these operations must be financed, and the Courier's comptroller, Henry Lindsay, keeps a careful tab on the company's income and its outgo. The circulation department promotes special features to stimulate sales, such as the favored church women's contest under the direction of Mrs. Alma Polk. The Courier's editorial importance has been recognized by other publications. The Reader's Digest, for example, with reprints of key stories in several editions. Top-notch newspaper journalists throughout the United States are Tokie Shock Johnson, the widely read women's editor, P.L. Prattis, Joe Bibb, Dr. Benjamin Mays, Marjorie McKenzie, J.A. Rogers, Horace Caton, George S. Schuyler. Some of the offices are Detroit, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, and Washington, with key writers Austin Norris, John Russo, Al Dunmore, Bill Folks, Frank Bolden, Harold Keith, Alex Rivera, John Diaz, Ches Washington, Trez Anderson, Hugo Warren, Evelyn Cunningham, Wendell Smith, Rollo Wilson, Rick Roberts, Jack Saunders, Will Robinson, Bill Nunn Jr., and reporters, rewrite, and copy people. Let's follow the Courier's big story from the time the flash comes over the phone or the ticker until the paper rolls off the presses, headed for thousands of homes, offices, and army camps all over the world. This is the real romance of journalism. Desk and rewrite personnel check, assemble, and weave the news into a story that will be both understandable and interesting to all readers. There are many conferences in this process before the copy is finally sent down to the composing room. When a big story breaks, news editor Robert Radcliffe finds it necessary to go into a huddle with his top rewrite man and other editorial personnel. After consultation with rewrite men, often the managing editor is consulted for additional advice. Behind the scenes is the all-important business department, which handles the complexities of operating a large organization. The purchasing of equipment, newsprint, ink, even paper clips and pencils. One branch of the business is the 19-person collection department, now engaged in checking the accounts of agents, for at this point, it just might be necessary to arbitrarily increase the agent's orders based on the import and the location of the big story. The agent's accounts are in order, now assured that the comptroller will give approval. The clerks of collection add to these orders, and thus they assure the availability of sufficient copies to meet the demands from newsstands and newsboys. There is, too, the subscription department, which functions to guarantee to thousands of subscribers delivery of the Courier each week. These services mark only a fraction of the tremendous cost of the Courier before it reaches you, the reader, for the few cents you are required to pay. At the precise moment that the big story is being constructed, the promotion department is keyed to give Courier readers those famous added measures of value. The coach's clinic, the popular band poll, the All-American football team, and the highly successful home service fairs. And then the promotion department finds it necessary to make surveys to show positive proof that advertising lineage in its columns will sell the products of the nation's businesses. The slogan of the department, "We promote goodwill." This is the only fully staffed promotion enterprise in Negro journalism, headed by Clyde Page, whose father was one of the founders of America's greatest weekly in 1910. And a more recent development of promotion has been series of radio newscasts in 9 different cities, with a Courier staff member broadcasting opinions and news gathered from regular wire services and supplemented with items sent in by correspondents from across the nation. 2 commentators in the Pittsburgh area are Mal Good and Roosevelt Gloucester, with 3 daily newscasts over station WHOD, one of America's truly democratic stations. The big story goes on. The art and engraving departments go into action, making layouts and cuts for the picture coverage which has made the Courier so popular and interesting. Wilbur Holloway, creator of the well-known comic strip Sonny Boy Sam, prepares his layout for next week's edition. Sam Malai, creator of Don Powers, an artist for the weekly feature on Negro history, prepares a drawing and also checks a previous episode in Don Powers' experiences to ensure continuity. Engraving involves a number of complex processes before a satisfactory cut can be made. Phil Taylor, the department foreman, checks for flaws and proper measurements of pictures sent to him by the artists, while his assistant, Lee Chapman, prepares the sensitive plates that are so important in giving the picture column size and clarity. Matt Lewis takes no chances on an inferior cut. He rechecks with Chapman for any evidences of poor photography that may have been brought out in this process. An equally fascinating department is advertising, that beehive of activity where live wire men and women bring the messages of the nation's businesses, their products and services into thousands of homes that have buying power. Virginia-born Russell Washington, graduate of Duquesne University's School of Commerce, gives supervision to assure advertisers full value for each dollar spent. Layouts are made, orders are typed, and conferences held with composing room and editorial personnel. For there is the problem of adjusting advertising lineage with the news content in order that both are in proper balance. When this balance is decided, the way is cleared for setting proofs to be submitted to the client for approval. The production department by this time has assembled precious material to assure meeting deadlines. Production manager Sam Wilkins confers with department heads to eliminate any possible delay in getting the Courier off the press on time. He makes certain that each individual supervisor knows and understands his assignment. As press time grows closer and closer, everything focuses on the composing room. The nimble and skilled fingers of many operators cause the linotype machines to sing out almost human-like, spewing the hot metal lines that place the big story in type. Hot lead type is placed on the bank to be proofed later. And then a bar of lead is weighed for processing. It later will be set in the Ludlow machine. In this operation, the skilled Ludlow artisan must be as accurate as a reporter and as fast as a linotypist. The screaming headline, which gives the big story its lead, comes from this machine. The proofreaders then scan all copy with a practiced eye to catch any errors and any mistakes that inevitably occur when stories are written under the pressure of meeting deadlines. Later, the type is justified and matched with the headlines, and the compositor is ready to make up the page under the editor's direction. This is an exacting job, too. The page is finally locked up, and the worker smiles as he completes it. A matrix is made. This job requires care, or the mat will be ruined and valuable time might be lost. The highly sensitized mat is rolled in a special machine that has 400 pounds of pressure per square inch. And press time is getting shorter and shorter. To make impressions better on the matrix, strips are placed on the reverse side. Now it is ready for the stereotypers, and this is no place to get in the way of the press room crew. The mats roll out as metal plates and are examined for rough edges, then water-cooled in another expensive machine that's needed to publish a great newspaper. High spots are ground out by the operator, and the plates are locked on the rolls in preparation for the actual printing. A building of this size is required to house this press that has an estimated value of $250,000. Another phase of work is underway while all of this is going on. The massive rolls of newsprint, weighing 3/4 of a ton, are set to be fed to the press, and the big story goes on. Meanwhile, the mailing department is addressing wrappers, preparing bags for shipment of subscribers' individual copies, and shipment also of agents' orders in bulk form, thus assuring prompt delivery. The bell rings and the press starts rolling. Always a thrilling sight. Doing the incredible job of getting the pages in proper sequences, folding the papers, and counting them as the finished courier spills out into the waiting hands of flyboys, mailers, and truckers. This courier, the first Negro newspaper to send accredited correspondents to World War II's fighting fronts. This courier, the first to see the fine potentialities of Joe Louis and follow his every move in his fist blazed a trail to the heavyweight championship of the world. This courier, which gave complete coverage to the Italo-Ethiopian War. This courier which fought for non-segregation in the armed forces, that found the hero of Pearl Harbor, Dory Miller. This courier which battled to break the color line in Major League Baseball and saw Jackie Robinson vindicate its faith in him while the world acclaimed him as a great athlete and a man. Yes, this is a courier with a tremendous list of firsts, the results of a dedicated staff with a highly sensitized nose for news that its readers prefer and a deep sense of cooperation with one another. Today, many of the courier pioneers, William Hance, Cumberland Posey, William Page, the foundation builders Robert Vann, Ira Lewis, W.P. Bayless, and Julia Bumley Jones, all must gaze from the great Valhalla and give sanction to the job their understudies are now doing. As this truck speeds into a distance, America's greatest weekly is on its way to you, and everyone is happy to bring you the Courier's big story.